Jordan, now that the college football season has come to an end as far as the regular season, obviously we still got bowl season. We still got the college football playoffs to look forward to. So there's plenty of college football left to be played on the field. But this is the time of season where staff changes start happening. We've seen them as far as the head coaching ranks. We'll get into that a little bit later when it comes to other programs. But staff changes, particularly for the Clemson Tigers, I think are on the horizon. So, what staff changes do you see coming to the Clemson Tiger staff this coming offseason? How many changes do you think Dabo Swinney will make? And then where do you think Clemson goes from here as far as a staff, as far as a program? There has been a lot of disappointment this season. A lot of that is because of the coaching staff. A lot of that is because of personnel. But what kind of staff changes do you see coming this offseason, and how soon do you see them happening? Are they going to happen before the bowl game? Are they going to happen after the bowl game? How soon do you think Clemson needs to make these staff changes in order to maximize their potential this offseason, particularly in the transfer portal season?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of threw a lot at me. As far as like staff changes, like how many, that is, still kind of up in the air, and those decisions are still being made. I think I have an idea. I do think that you will have a different safeties coach next year. I feel pretty certain of that, and how that ultimately plays out. That is still kind of in the works. I do think that, you're going to see a new face there. And as far as like on the offensive side of the ball, I do think those final evaluations are being made. But I do expect multiple staff changes. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean firings. That could mean guys taking other jobs.
Yes.
That is certainly in play for a couple of guys, not just as position coaches, but within the support staff. And so, kind of how all of that ties together, who they take with them, those things are very much in play. But I do think those staff changes are coming sooner rather than later, because there's just not as much time to really wait on those things now with the way the college football calendar is. So I definitely think you will see some changes made in the near future. Like I don't think it'll be after the bowl game at the very least. We're still kind of in wait and see, but those things are still those things are still being played out. I'm really interested just to kind of see ultimately, how those changes are made. Like I said, is it going to be a firing? Is it going to be guys taking other jobs? Which ideal, for a head coach having to make these decisions, a guy taking another job that, you were planning on firing anyway. That's like best case scenario. I mean, you don't have to have that uncomfortable conversation with them, and all of that, because those things are always difficult. But I definitely think you'll see those changes coming sooner rather than later. And I do think a lot of it will be, on the defensive side of the ball, just with how the season is played out. I think Tom Allen is your defensive coordinator next season. So don't get me. Yeah, that's not what I'm referring to. But everything else, I think is up in the air.
Yeah, everything else is certainly up in the air, and it's one of those things that I think there's going to be several staff changes within this Clemson coaching staff this offseason. I'm not going to put a number on it. Maybe it's 3, maybe it's 4, maybe it's more. I don't really know, but I think there will be significant turnover within the Clemson coaching staff this offseason. I do think it probably comes sooner rather than later, for the simple fact that the transfer portal opens up, Jordan, on the 2nd of January. And I think you have to try to have your staff as intact as possible in order to attack the portal in a productive way. And I think the portal is going to be a big key for Clemson this coming offseason. It's going to be a key because there are going to be a lot of holes to fill on this roster. This is a veteran roster that is going to have a lot of players leave. There's going to be a lot of holes to fill, not only at the safety position, but at a lot of other positions within the roster. And you're going to have a staff in place in order to sell people to come to your program, right? Part of it is going to be who you're going to be playing for. These portal players are going to want to know who they're going to be playing for. It's not just about money. Yes, money is a big factor when it comes to recruiting the transfer portal, but another factor is who are these players going to be playing for? So I think you're going to see these staff changes sooner rather than later, and I think there are going to be several, probably along the defense and offensive staffs. I would say I would put the over under at 4 for staff changes with the assistants, and that's just simply a guess at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. We're still kind of figuring all of that out, and like I said, those final decisions are being made, those final conversations. Because I mean, it's not just Dabo making weighing on the future of guys on the staff. It's those guys on the staff weighing on their own
Yes,
future, and because some guys get opportunities elsewhere. That is all. That is always a possibility. And so how that kind of materializes and how it plays out is it's still in the works. But I definitely think those changes are coming sooner rather than later.
absolutely. Jordan, the time has come for the transfer portal season, and Clemson has had its very first transfer portal announcement. D. Creighton enters the transfer portal for the Clemson Tigers. He will not play in the bowl game. Hasn't got very much playing time at all this past season. Not really a surprise here, but what are your thoughts on this very first transfer portal announcement when it comes to this Clemson Tigers roster? He will not be the last. He is the first. But again, this is something that is going to happen as we go through the month of December.
Yeah, I mean, D. Creighton is a guy that has, obviously in his third season with the program, just hadn't really found his footing in the rotation. With the addition of Jeremiah Alexander in the offseason, the return of Kobe McLeod, there was just really a lot of, there wasn't a lot of snaps up for grabs, and he played a couple of games. Earlier in the season, North Carolina, Boston College, he played some of his higher snap counts. But it wasn't really in the cards for him to play more than that, and it was clear that after Sammy Brown and Wade Woodaz, it was Kobe McLeod and Jeremiah Alexander were those guys next up off the bench, and his snap count kind of diminished towards the back end of the season, and he didn't play at all against South Carolina on Saturday. So I think that just kind of says it's not the most shocking thing in the world. They'll definitely get some opportunities elsewhere. He was a decently rated recruit coming out of high school, but just never really kind of found his footing here. Just from a developmental standpoint, it didn't always click. Watching him out there, he would have some really nice moments, but really limited physically, and I think that certainly hurt. Being able to play him too many snaps. So, but best of luck to him. He's a Georgia kid. I wonder if he'll go back, closer to home. We'll kind of see what what decision he decides to go in and what direction he decides to go in. But not a shocking loss to the portal there, and I definitely don't think he's the last. That's the reality of things now, and especially when you have a 7-5 season. So, don't expect him to be the only departure on defense.
Yeah, he certainly won't be the only departure on defense, and expect offensive players to follow as well. Again, the first portal deflection for the Clemson Tigers of the 2025 season, but certainly will not be the last. Continuing down the trend of the signing class, Caden Gebhardt, safety, 4-star commit in this season's class. There's some smoke around him and possibly some fire, Jordan. We have 19 current commits for the 2026 college football class for the Clemson Tigers. but he is the one currently that you are hearing the most noise about flipping. Ohio State's a big player. He's from the state of Ohio. He does not play high school football too far from Ohio Stadium, where the Ohio State Buckeyes play. That seems to be where he is currently trending. What is the story behind Caden Gebhardt? He is, at one point in time in this class, Clemson had 3 safeties committed. Right now, they only have 2, Caden Gebhardt being one of them, and he looks to probably be heading elsewhere. So what does this mean for the Clemson Tigers, and is there some fire with this smoke?
Yeah, there's definitely fire. Caden Gebhardt, a guy, obviously Ohio kid, out of Olentangy High School. I mean, he's a kid that the staff really likes. Kind of very much in that Wade Woodaz mold. Very big, physical. But you could see him growing into a more of a linebacker type. In fact, I think his 24/7 Sports pro comp was Drew Tranquil, NFL linebacker who was started his career in college as a safety, and he's become a really productive linebacker since he left Notre Dame. Toward during his Notre Dame career, and since he's left Notre Dame. I definitely see that. I see that in his future. A guy that could potentially play linebacker in college, just with more size. And it was a really nice fit, I think, and I still think he would fit in really nicely at Clemson. But obviously, there's some questions regarding the future of his position, his future position coach at Clemson, and Mickey Kahn. There's also some familial pressures going on in regards to him being closer to home, and Ohio State just kind of never stayed off of him. And I definitely expect him to make his decision to flip. I mean, that may be on signing day, but maybe he'll come sooner. But there's definitely fire with this smoke, and that means that's another loss to your what was a really nice safety class is now down to 1. I think there's a really good safety in Polo Anderson, but it's a far cry from the safety class you were going to be bringing in with Anderson, Gebhardt, and Blake Stewart, of course. And so now that's not only has your defensive tackle class really fallen apart, but now your safety class has. So that's not good. I liked Gebhardt a lot as a prospect. Thought he would develop nicely. I don't know if, like I said, I think he probably would ended up playing linebacker potentially, but I think that's still a massive loss. And hey, you have 1 linebacker committed in your class anyway. So either way, you're losing. You're going to have 1 of a safety and 1 of a linebacker. So just not ideal. I don't expect any other. As far as I know, there's not any other expected decommits. I guess that's the silver lining, the good news for Clemson fans. But you kind of hate it that this is kind of how it played out, especially since Gebhardt was another one of the recruits that was very intent on him not flipping and not defecting when other guys were. So, hey, but that's the reality of recruiting. I mean, words don't only mean so much nowadays. So it is what it is. Really good football player. I think he's going to do good things at Ohio State. But yeah, definitely expect him to flip here in the near future. So we'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. Clemson's definitely going to lose this battle to Ohio State. Not a good thing for the Tigers. Safety is a position of need for the Clemson Tigers. It further amplifies the need for Clemson to go get a safety or 2 in this transfer portal season. Obviously, it has been a position of need throughout the season. You have seen that on the field. Although we've had a couple safeties flash throughout this season, it is a need for the Clemson Tigers, and to have 2 different safeties in this class defect from the 2026 class is not a good thing for the Tigers. So I wish Caden Gebhardt the best. Hope he has a great career at Ohio State, but he's not gonna don that pall for the Tigers. But transitioning right into National Signing Day, or early signing day, as it's called. Really, it's National Signing Day, and Clemson looks to probably sign 18 recruits in this class with the defection of Caden Gebhardt. So we're going to have 18 recruits that are, expected to sign with the Tigers between November 3rd and November 5th. That's the early signing period this season. Jordan, what are kind of the highlights of this class, and what Clemson fans should be paying attention to in this 2026 class when it comes to the Clemson Tigers?
Yeah, I mean, this class, in a lot of ways, I mean, people are going to think about the losses, yeah, and the not just the ones you lost on the trail in terms of like that head-to-head recruiting battles, but the guys that decommitted. But they're still, I think this is still a really solid class, and I really like where they are at other positions. Obviously, offensive line was a big emphasis in this class, not just defensive line. And I definitely expect all of those guys to sign with you tomorrow. So, I think this is one of the better offensive line classes that Clemson will have ever signed. And I think for me, the headliner is Chance Barkley. I think he's probably the highest rated too, but I truly think he's one of the best offensive linemen in the country. One of the most ready guys to play in the country. I think he can slot in on the interior and play at a high level from day one. He's one of those guys, just really, really technically sound, beyond his age. Already has a really nice frame and nice size at the position for the interior. And I think he's going to come in and be a guy that competes to at least get in the rotation if he doesn't start. So excited for him. Really excited for him. Grant Wise, I think, has a really bright future. I think he's going to be a center for you, and just a mauler, a people mover. He's one of the strongest player, probably the strongest player in this class. Just everything you want in an offensive lineman, in a center. He's got physical, just a mean. Has a mean streak about him on film. I enjoy watching him play, and he was really, really fun to watch and kind of tearing it up in the camp circuit. So he's definitely gotten a lot of love in recent months. So really excited for him. But I think this is a really strong offensive line class overall, and excited to get all of these guys on campus. Obviously, the receiver class is the other headliner, I think, for me in this class. Definitely expect all of those guys to sign. Naeem Burrows is another guy I think that has instant impact, ability. He's just he's a guy that is going to be tough to keep off the field as a freshman. I think just with his ability, his natural ability, and obviously with some questions, depending on who you bring back next year in this receiver room, I definitely think there could be some room for him to work his way into the rotation as a freshman, because I do think he has that ability. Gordon Sellers and Connor Salmon are guys that I think will be really productive players in their career as well. So I think this is it's a good class, a good receiver class for Clemson. Another nice feather in the cap for Tyler Grisham. I don't really understand why he gets the at this point in time he's still getting sort of the ire that he does from Clemson fans, because I really think he's done a good job the last couple of years, and obviously recruiting has not been a problem. I think you're going to be well stocked with talent next season, as long as you hold on to guys. So yeah. Been happy with the receiver play largely this year. It's not their fault that the other parts of the offense have struggled. So I think this is a really nice class, and guys that I think will be productive players in their career. So let's see, who else did I want to mention? Obviously, your one tight end commit, Tavion Wilson. I really like him. Defensive back. It's not the most star-studded. It's not the most started corner, I should say. It's not the most star-studded group. And obviously, Blake Stewart, decommitting. I think he's a guy that could have played anywhere. Probably would have played safety, but he had the athletic ability to play anywhere. That's a massive loss. But Marcel Gibson is a guy that I think Clemson fans have he's kind of been an afterthought because he committed, so early. And he committed in March, and we just kind of didn't really talk about him much. He was on a star-studded defense, so I mean that also didn't help. But he's a guy that's had a really, really nice senior year. A guy that could potentially be I don't know if he's a guy that's going to come in and play for you right away, but I really like what he's shown, what he showed on his senior tape. And I think he's a guy that could develop really nicely. And obviously, and I guess I'll finish it off with the quarterback position because that's who we're gonna have our biggest eyes on in the offseason. Tate Reynolds coming in, spent most of his senior year out with injury, so I'm really intrigued to see where he's at coming in, especially considering he's also going to be preparing to play baseball. I'm not really expecting him to come in and compete for the starting job at this point in time. It doesn't seem likely. He already hasn't been playing the quarterback position for very long, and the injury setbacks have certainly haven't helped. But I really like his long term ceiling with his physical traits. He's a guy that I think has all the tools that you would want in a high level Power 5 starting quarterback. I mean, just the athletic ability. He's got a really, really nice arm. He'll probably have the best arm in the room if he comes in, just in terms of pure arm strength. And then obviously he's a well-built kid already. He looks the part. So really interested to see where he's at, coming in, because hey, maybe he surprises us all and he's more ready to go than we realize. And hey, that's all the more. I mean that's great, and only helps Clemson in this scenario when there's a lot of uncertainty at that position going into next season.
Yeah, absolutely. The quarterback position is definitely going to be a position of concern for Clemson this offseason. There's a lot of Clemson fans out there that are, touting for different quarterbacks that are currently on the roster to start the 2026 season. But, you got two quarterbacks coming in this class, Tate Reynolds and Brock Bradley, both dual sport athletes. Tate Reynolds, a guy that, he's big, he's strong, he's got a strong arm. Didn't play majority of his senior season, got hurt, I think, in his first game of the season and missed, pretty much his entire senior season. So that's definitely a concern. I don't think he's really an option in year one, considering he's planning on playing baseball, at least in his first year at Clemson. So him being an option in year one is really not on my radar. Brock Bradley's not an option in year one either. Honestly, I think Clemson's got to go to the transfer portal to get their starting quarterback for 2026. That's just my opinion. We'll get into that a little bit later. But the wide receiver position, massive class coming in. Naheem Burrows, Connor Salman, Gordon Sellers, all three of those are four-star athletes. It's going to be exciting. You got 6 offensive linemen coming in. That's a huge class, and a bunch of big-time kids, huge kids, athletic kids. They are going to be great offensive linemen at Clemson. I'm excited about that. So a good class coming in overall for the Clemson Tigers. There have been position groups that have been dwindled down, and I think Clemson's going to have to supplement when it comes to the portal, specifically at a couple position groups, namely safety. But we'll kind of see how that goes as we go through the offseason. It's going to be a big offseason for the Clemson Tigers, I think, in the transfer portal, and there's going to be a lot of holes to fill. And part of that is because of the high school recruiting class. Part of that is because of what you're losing off of this roster this season. So we'll see how it goes.
Yes, we will.